talk to 3 different freelancers so that you can kind of see the main differences, like in pricing or the kind of quality of work that they've done. So give yourself a few options. And then also just be clear around your expectations and the way that you want to work with them. If you're the type of person that wants to micromanage the freelancer, then that's completely cool. Just be transparent about it, because you will end up having issues with someone who just wants to do their own thing and doesn't want to be managed. But you might also run into a situation where you say, just do what you want, but you're working with someone who's like reasonably junior who needs to be managed. So it's all about like good communication skills, clear expectations, and that will put you in a really good position.
Kia ora, my name is Craig Murray, and you have tuned into the New Zealand Small Business and Entrepreneur Festival podcast delivered to you by DHL. Today we have got a unicorn chaser, Connor Finlayson. He is the founder of the Unicorn Factory. What is the Unicorn Factory? Well, I'm going to bring Connor into the stream and he can chat all about it. So Connor, welcome to the stream. Kia ora.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No worries, man. Hey, I always record this podcast from the centre of the North Island of Rotorua in New Zealand. Where are you currently?
I'm in Ottawa in Canada at the moment. So I am from New Zealand. I lived in Wellington until about a year ago, but I met a Canadian lady over in Wellington and we packed up, we moved over, and so now we're back. You know, it had to be done. It was good because it was the first time I was making a bit of money. And so that was pretty much that. Yeah, so my professional origin story. So, I mean, I actually grew up in Germany. So my parents are New Zealanders, but we moved to Germany when I was 2 years old. My dad's a tennis coach and he got a job there. And so I actually came back to New Zealand when I was 18 to study. So I signed up to Vic University. I didn't actually know what I wanted to study or even if I wanted to study, but I met this guy there who was really friendly and gave me a tour of the campus. So I was like, you know what, why not? And so I ended up studying economics and finance. And after I graduated, I applied for a whole bunch of graduate programs. But, you know, I was one of those people who, let's put it this way, I was not an A student or a B student at university. I was kind of like the kind of, I would always kind of do what I had to do in order to pass. And that kind of worked for me up until the point where you start applying for jobs and you're competing with all those other graduates. Basically, as soon as I graduated, I was struggling to find a job. And so the only way I could really get a job was to create a job. So our university was running this entrepreneurial boot camp thing, which was basically just a way for people with business ideas to get started. So at the time, I didn't even really have a business idea. It was just more a way to put something on my CV that would hopefully put me in a position where I could get more interviews. But as soon as I started in that boot camp, started working on a little project with some people that I met there, I realized that is probably the only thing that I'm going to be able to do for the rest of my life. So ever since then, I've kind of been working on startups, some that have worked well, some that haven't worked so well. And now I'm at a point where I'm living in Canada. I started a website called Unicorn Factory, which is a freelance marketplace in New Zealand and now also in Canada. The idea behind it is to make it really easy for Kiwi businesses, entrepreneurs, even people who might be working on little side projects to find locals that can help them with design things, marketing things, software development things. And I've been working on that for the last 3.5 years now. It's been going really well. And yeah, that's pretty much my professional origin story in a snapshot.
The second question I asked all of our guests is in regards to brand. So what brand has had the biggest impact on you and why?
So I'll probably say free come to mind because like for very different reasons. So the unicorn so when I think of the unicorn factory and kind of what inspired the vision behind it and set the values for it, I'll probably say the Biz Dojo, which is a co-working space, was kind of the foundation for all of that. So when I basically, when we started in that entrepreneur bootcamp, we were based in the Biz Dojo on Torrey Street in Wellington, and that for me was a real game changer professionally because I kind of went from just really screwing around to being in a place where I felt like this is a place for work, and everyone was really welcoming, everyone was very encouraging, and they basically gave me so they, and when I say they, I mean the people that ran the place, but also the community of people in there. They basically gave me a platform from where I could start my professional career. And I was really lucky at the time. They let me stay there for free. There were heaps of people there who were super supportive, really good at networking people, and so that that really set me up. Like it really set me up. It really and it also made me really appreciate just what they were doing for me, even though there was like no expectations of getting anything in return. So when I thought of the Unicorn Factory and what I wanted to achieve with it long term, I kind of always had the Biz Dojo in mind, because what they meant to me was that they just created opportunities for me. They basically empowered me to kind of do what I wanted to do for a living, even though at the time I didn't even really know what it was. And so that's exactly what I want to do with the Unicorn Factory as well. I want to give people who might just be getting into freelancing a chance to do that. And so that is probably the number one brand that comes to mind specifically to the Unicorn Factory. Another one that pops to mind is, I'd say, Webflow. Webflow is like, they build like, it's a website building tool, and honestly, I just love what they do as a whole, as a company. So they have a fantastic product. Their marketing is like on point, and again, their key values are really driven towards supporting and empowering people to do what they love for a living. And so I do definitely see that and aspire to do a lot of things like that as well. And then I'll probably say that those are like the main brands, actually. I said three. I'll probably say those two stand out from everyone else. But obviously you pick a few little bits and pieces from other little brands here and there.
How can the Unicorn Factory help a small business?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, the Unicorn Factory makes it easy for you to hire freelancers. So let's say, for example, your business is currently at a point where you can't afford to bring on a full-time employee, but you want to move the business along. Then hiring freelancers is actually a really good solution, because you can actually bring them on a part-time basis. You can bring them on for very specific projects, and you can actually get people who know what they're doing, get you to where you want to go faster. And so that is the mass appeal behind hiring freelancers in general. But one thing that I always felt was missing in New Zealand was that local feel. I met a lot of people who run businesses for whom building a business is a super personal thing. And obviously you want to know the people that you're working with. So even though there are other freelancing websites out there like Fiverr and Upwork and Toptail, really what I wanted to do is to make it easier for you to connect with local freelancers so that you can have that local connection. And so, yeah, whatever project you're working on in your business, if you need someone that knows what they're doing to come in and help, then I've got my website. You don't even need to sign up. You don't need to pay. You can just simply click through our directory, find out what everyone does. And if you then want me to introduce you to them, you can just fill out the contact form, give us your details, tell us a bit about what you're working on, and we will then connect you with the right freelancer.
So how would a person who might be on here, who's got a specific set of tools and like professional tools, become a freelancer on Unicorn Factory?
Yep. So the process is pretty straightforward. You just sign up, and then there's a a form that you can fill out. All the information that you submit to the form, I will then upload. You'll get your own profile page, and you can just basically promote your services. So we unlike other sites, we don't operate as a middleman as such. We're just simply a directory, or you can kind of think of us as like a digital phone book. So we don't make any guarantees that we're going to get you heaps of work. We basically create a platform for you for people to discover the kind of work that you do. So you can just simply jump on there. You can fill out that form. We'll get a profile live for you. And then we also have a kind of like a community going on. So if you are in the very early stages of starting your freelancing business, then we'll be able to help you with some tips and tricks around pricing and finding clients and all those types of things.
Cool. So is there a minimum, like, okay, I'll change to the other side now. So I'm a business owner and I want someone, I'd like to work with someone for 3 months, or I've got a project that's going to be for 2 or 3 months. Is there a minimum amount of time and a maximum amount of time, or how does it work in terms of, like, can I get someone for 5 hours, or does it have to be 20 or 40 hours?
So it really depends. So we have a range of different freelancers. So we've got 4 main categories. So we've got the newbies, which is just people who are just getting into freelancing. They self-categorize as that. And basically, those are oftentimes people who've just graduated from university. They don't have like a lot of professional experience, but they have certain skills that they're good at. So for example, someone who's just graduated design school might come in, might be able to help you out with a logo. Now, those are the types of freelancers that you can get for a few hours easily, because the thing that they're mostly looking for is work experience. Then we also have side hustlers, and side hustlers are people who actually have full-time jobs, but they want to make a little bit of extra money on the side. So they offer certain services. So we have a lot of copywriters that do that. So they oftentimes do that work after work. And so again, if you're just looking for someone who can do like a few hours worth of work for you, then that's another category of freelancer that you might be able to reach out to. And then we've also got pros and studios. So pros are professional freelancers, oftentimes just work by themselves. Sometimes they collaborate with other freelancers, but it's mostly a one-on-one relationship that you'll have with that freelancer. Now, obviously, because they do it for a living, they have certain requirements. Like, you oftentimes don't find that you can get them for like 3 or 4 hours. You oftentimes have to get them for entire projects or for certain retainers. But with that being said, there's no like one rule fits it all. It's kind of like, as soon as you connect with them, you can kind of explain what you're after. And then it's just a matter of having a conversation with them to kind of figure out something that works for both of you. And then just to round it off, the last category is studios. Those are agencies. Those are freelancers that started on the Unicorn Factory, but then grew their business to the point where they run entire agencies. They've got like staff, all those kind of things, and just wanted to stay on the site. So I just created a special studio category. And so if you have a bigger project or you need a wider range of services, then hiring studios is probably a good option.
Cool. So I might dig in a little bit to you. How did you come up with the idea for the Unicorn Factory, and then how did it start? I know you talked about the studio that you're in Wellington, but what was the trigger in your mind that was like, okay, cool, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, so the Unicorn Factory wasn't actually an idea in the way that people, I think, come up with startup ideas. I had just finished working on a startup. I was the marketing person, and the parent company had just gotten acquired. And basically, long story short, they had to wrap up the project. So I was kind of left in a situation where I was starting from scratch again. I wasn't in a great financial position. My confidence was kind of like not that great. So I just decided that for a while, I don't want to do any more startup things. I just want to make money. And the way that I'm going to make money is by freelancing. Now, as most normal freelancers, I have 2 options. I can either like just create a normal portfolio website like everyone else and then just start promoting my work that way. Or I could do what I ended up doing, which was to create a little directory of freelancers and then give myself a little verified check mark to create more trust. So the whole idea behind it initially was honestly to get work for myself. So what I did was I had a friend who I worked with in the co-working space who ran a software development agency. I was actually helping him with marketing and sales. So I thought, you know what, I'll just add him to the site as well. And then I added a few other people who were friends, family, former colleagues, and I just listed them on there so that my freelancers directory wouldn't just have 2 people on it. And then so as soon as we got 8 people, I just started to tell people about it. And over time, we started getting work. Like suddenly, someone reached out to my friend who was the software developer, and he got a lead out of it. Then some of my friends who were not even freelancing started getting inquiries, and over time, it just started to increase more and more and more. And so, as it started to get a little bit more exposure, I wasn't even treating it as a side hustle. It was mostly a way for me to practice building websites and Webflow, or it was a way for me to practice setting up little workflows. I had no aspiration to like turn this into something. Just because of the experiences that I had made with previous startups, I was so battered down by it that I was just kind of like, look, this is just for fun. This is just a hobby. And so over time, more and more people would like reach out to me and ask me if they can be listed on there as well. And I went from having 8 freelancers to having 25 to having like 50. And then there was a moment where I posted something in the NZ Tech Startup Facebook group to basically, I just decided, you know what, it's kind of okay. Like maybe we can get a bit of extra work if I post it on there. And I think that day I got like 200 applications for different freelancers. And to be completely clear, at this point, I was not monetizing the site at all. Like I had started getting work through the site. So for me, it was like an absolute win because like I could charge like a few grand to do Facebook ads for people. So this was like a best case scenario. So I was just kind of like, okay, if I can help other people get work, sweet, you know, like this sounds good to me. And then it started getting to the point where like we were getting like a good amount of organic growth. And because I was working on it by myself, it started getting a bit time consuming. So I think it was at the moment where I launched my first little pricing plan on the website, where I kind of felt like, okay, maybe this is going somewhere. Like maybe this is like something that's gonna work. Because I launched this pricing plan, which was like $99 a year, and I will give you access to our job board. And I honestly thought that no one would pay. But then as soon as I launched it, I think I got like a bunch of people who just immediately paid me. And when I asked them why they paid me, they're like, oh, we've actually received so much work through the website. We've just been looking for a way to actually pay you. So this kind of worked. Yeah. And so it was kind of at that point where I was like, oh, you know, like it's valuable to people. I think even today, I'm not like, wow, this is going places. Like I've just kind of let it do its thing. I kind of know what's important to me with the website. And it's just a fun project for me to work on. It's now at a point where it makes like a good amount of revenue. Because I still consult and do things myself, I reinvest most of that into growth. So yeah, it's kind of been going pretty well. Like we've had like a good growth over the last year, and I'm hoping that continues.
Cool, well done. So I'm going to jump back onto the other side again now, and just pretend that I am someone who's just jumped onto your website for the first time, and they're in need of some people to work with them virtually or however they might be in March, whatever, next year. How do we know that they're going to provide quality work?
Yeah. So I do my best to make sure that when they apply that they know what they're talking about, and I make sure that they know what's going on. But I also have to balance people being inexperienced as a freelancer versus you know, still being good at a particular skill and service. So the way I do it is I do as much pre-work as possible, but at the end of the day, as a business owner, you just have to go through the process of having conversations with people, asking the right questions, and making sure that they can do what you are asking them to do. And so oftentimes that works. I feel like if you are someone who has a good plan around what exactly you need to get done, it will be quite easy for you to figure out what questions to ask. And oftentimes you'll be able to tell quite fast how competent someone is at a particular job. But since starting the Unicorn Factory, I've maybe had like 3 complaints for about the work that freelancers have done. And look, I'm very protective of my freelancers. I'm going to put the blame in all 3 cases on that person just being a bad project manager. But, overall, it's just a matter of communication. It's not like there's no science to it. It's about having a conversation with another person, being clear around what it is that you want to do, and basically asking questions that basically make sure that you know that who you're hiring is the right person for the job.
So in the profile of the freelancer, do they have reviews from previous work that they've done?
So they add portfolio items, but we don't add reviews. So I made a conscious decision to not add reviews very early on, because I actually helped Uber launch in Wellington. So they were in the Biz Dojo at the time, and I did that as like kind of a part-time job. And one of the things that I thought was the worst thing about Uber was their rating system and the garbage that people would write about drivers in there for whatever reason. And, freelancing is a confidence thing. If you have someone who leaves you a 3-star review, that like means nothing to the person leaving the review, but makes a huge, huge, huge emotional difference to the person doing the work. And so I just decided that I'm not including reviews. People should ask the right questions and review the work that they have done in the past and use that as a guide to whether or not to hire someone. But yeah, I don't want to create an environment where people are being reduced down to a rating between 1 and 5.
Cool. Great answer. How much of a team do you have?
So I am mostly a solopreneur. So I've now hired a personal assistant, which is like my first hire. And to be honest, I hired the person mostly because I just wanted to, deal with some admin stuff. I was kind of like, it's good. And I've also kind of like wanted to make that step simply because I wanted to kind of just hire someone, practice the process of working with an employee. But in the past, I've always just hired freelancers for myself. Now, it doesn't always work for everyone. Like, I'm not trying to say that, hey, this is the way to do it, but because it definitely isn't for everyone. But I would just hire people on a project basis. So if I would, instead of hiring an all-rounder that could kind of do a little bit of everything, but not really anything great or something, I would just try to automate as much of the work as possible. And then if there were specialist things like building websites out, then I would hire someone. And so given that I run a freelancer website, I always have the inside scoop on who's doing the best work. So I just like get them in to do the work for me. And that's worked out really well. I've hired some phenomenal people through the site who have built out parts of the website, done parts of my marketing, done newsletters for me, everything, all the kind of stuff where I'm just not that good at it. I had someone come in, do it, put me in a good spot, get it all set up. And so, yeah, that's kind of been my philosophy up until this point.
What has been the biggest challenge for you in the Unicorn Factory since the inception?
I'll probably say the biggest challenge is when you start to scale. Like, one of the things that's most important to me is just the community side of things. Like, I'm dealing with people here who are making like really big decisions in their career. And as we get more people, it's very hard to give everyone the kind of attention that they deserve. So like when I started the Unicorn Factory, I like jump on calls with them. Like, no problem. Like, what you're not sure what to price your services at? No problem. Let's jump on like a quick 20-minute call. But like now we're at the point where we've got over 700 freelancers on the site, and it's quite difficult to do that. And so I'll probably say the biggest challenge has just been community management. It's something that you can't really automate. It's something that you can also not really outsource, because as soon as you start doing that, it becomes it's just not authentic anymore. And I always just keep coming back to like my time in the Biz Dojo, and I kind of see that as the standard. And so I've always kind of struggled with how I can create that kind of vibe online. But I'm doing my best. I think we do some cool things. We have like this thing called office hours where we all gather like once a fortnight on a Zoom call, and we have a talk about different topics that are freelancing related, and that's been cool. But yeah, I mean, just like community management online is not as easy. So I'll probably say that's the biggest challenge.
So that leads into a question that I've got. How do you communicate with the team? So the freelance, you've got 700 of them. You mentioned electronic direct mail, EDMs. You Zoom. Anything else?
So the main form of communication is email. So, and that is 95% automated. So it's just basically introducing clients to freelancers. Then the way that I communicate with it, then we also have a community forum where it's basically like a big help desk where you can kind of like learn everything you need to learn about freelancing. We used to have that in Slack, but the problem with Slack is that it's not super inclusive to new people joining, because as soon as conversations are had, they disappear in the feed. So I moved over to a new platform called Circle, which is basically a big community forum, so that if someone's just joining and they want to learn a bit more about a specific topic, then there's a thread that they can just go and read through and comment on and all that kind of stuff. And then the other way is Zoom, so our office hours. So if someone wants to jump on there, we have like a face-to-face chat, and yeah, those are like the three main ways of communicating with each other.
Nice. So where do you see recruitment going in the next 5 years?
Well, it depends in what sense, but I mean, people are like, even though I feel like people are getting more choices now, like there are just more doors opening up for people with us making that move online. Like, even if you just think about pre-COVID that we had to be in a certain location to do certain types of work, all of that has changed now. You can work from wherever you want. So that is number one. Number two is it's so much easier now to acquire skills than it ever has been. So there are like 1,000,001 online courses out there that you can take to acquire a very, very specific skill set. There are so many YouTube channels out there that teach you the basics around things, which means that if you decide from one day to the other to change careers, it is not that difficult anymore because those resources are now out there. So I think in that sense, recruitment is going to change just because the nature of work is going to change. The way that people find work, do what they love, the amount of work that they do, like, will we still be doing a 40-hour work week? I don't know. So I think the people that are going to come out of this, the companies that are going to come out of this as winners are the ones that can adapt to that change the most. And if I look at, for example, government, specifically here in Canada, because I had a conversation with someone the other day, but probably the same in New Zealand, it's like, if you're not flexible, you are going to lose out on the most talented people in your market. It's as simple as that. So then when you look at companies like Twitter or Stripe, they will move mountains to get you to come and work for them. And now, instead of just having to work for someone in New Zealand, now you've got all of these other countries and all of these other companies in those countries where you can now work for them. And I know like a lot of Kiwis who are now working for US companies remotely from Wellington, Auckland. And so that's a big thing that has changed, and I think will continue to change. It will get even bigger, if you ask me.
So how do you plan? Like, do you write lists, or you app-based tools, or is there something else that you use?
Yeah, so I do plan. Just simply because nowadays I have to, like with the Unicorn Factory Canada, I also have like a little course that I run, and the Unicorn Factory New Zealand. So I use a tool called Airtable, which is kind of like my main database where I basically have a to-do list. Now that I have someone who works for me, I can also assign jobs to her, which is quite cool. And yeah, so I kind of have like a project list. So the types of projects that I'm working on, and then within those projects, I have different tasks that belong to that to-do list. I also do like a daily plan. So the night before, I basically make a list of the things that I have to do to hit certain goals. I also like make high level goals for like the year or long termish kind of things, so that I can kind of, if I'm not exactly sure what to work on, I can kind of use that as a reference point to kind of pick and choose what I should be prioritizing at any given time. But even though I use Airtable, I'm a very paper and pen type person. I feel like that just works best for me. So I usually in the morning, I just sit there with like an A4 piece of paper, put it in front of me, and I'm just writing it down throughout the day. And then, that basically,
Same.
there's nothing better than an A4 piece of paper, right?
And you just
Like,
write your line through it, done.
yeah. You know, I feel like too many productivity tools make you less productive. So you just can't go wrong with paper and pen.
I'm interested in what Airtable is. I haven't heard of that. So is that like a Mondays or a Trello or something like that, or is it something different?
Yeah, so Airtable is just a visual database tool. So I'd think of it as like Google Sheets with some of the features of Monday.com. Honestly, I love Airtable, so I could like give you the entire sales spiel. But at the end of the day, it's quite similar to like other tools that are out there. Like if you use Monday.com, like you'll probably get more value out of Monday.com. If you don't have a to-do list at all, then definitely check out Airtable. But yeah, it's just it's kind of like a very, very, very great version of Google Sheets.
Is it free or is it a subscription?
Yeah, they have a free plan. They also have paid plans. I'm on their paid plan, but I also am part of the affiliate program. So I make YouTube videos where I basically talk about Airtable all the time. So every time someone clicks the link, I get $10 credit. Nice. So I think I've got like free credit with Airtable on their top plan for like the next like 3 years or something.
So next question, I'm not too sure how, obviously I don't live in Canada, so I'm not too sure how the pandemic is tracking over there, but over the last 22 months, we're at the 22 month sort of mark now since the first lockdown. Can you take any positives out of the last 22 months?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, to be honest. I mean, I think the whole pandemic and the lockdown, for me personally, put a lot of things in perspective. And that is that, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, life isn't that bad. Like, we've got, like, a lot of good things. Like, and so I don't know what it was, but for me, the start of the pandemic was, like, a point where I decided to make a lot of changes in my life, just to my lifestyle and health in general. There was I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just like pure luck that I saw it. But I was like browsing through Instagram like 2 days before the lockdown started. And there was one of the New Zealand UFC fighters, Israel Adesanya, who said something like, this lockdown is either going to change people's life for the better, and something along that, I'm paraphrasing here right now, or it's going to ruin people, and like you can make that decision on what you want to do. And I don't know what it was about what he said there, but I was like, you know what, the start of this lockdown is going to be the start of a monumental shift in our lives, and I can decide right now what I'm going to do with it. So I just decided to start doing a whole bunch of different things that I hadn't considered before that would just overall improve the quality of my life. And so for me, that was like a huge improvement of life, like a huge thing that was started through this pandemic. Another positive thing that I've seen is like just through the Unicorn Factory is just the sheer amount of people who have like taken a pretty like bleak situation that they found themselves in and tried to turn it around. I think that's like a real Kiwi thing as well. People who tried to develop businesses as a result of this. People who wanted to create tracking it, like those health tracking apps. I think we had like 20 people within the first 2 days of us being in lockdown, like signing up to the Unicorn Factory to try and hire developers to build like these contact tracing apps. But also so many other things, you know, like just people who wanting to find ways to support people in their community. And I feel like in a lot of ways, it's been like really bad for a lot of people. It's put people in really difficult spots, but it's also, I think, basically pushed people towards, you know, doing things that they may not have thought that they could do, you know. And so that was one of the things I thought was really like great to see from the Unicorn Factory perspective. And of course, like I think the last thing is like the amount of people who started freelancing, doing things on the side as a result of the situation that they found themselves in. Like, was for me personally, like I was really like happy that I could provide that platform to give someone that starting point. And so for me, there were a lot of positives that I took out of it. I went through 2 different kind of lockdowns, like first in New Zealand, which was like a full lockdown, and then Canada, which was kind of like not a lockdown, like yes, a lockdown, but not really a lockdown. So I feel like even though, you know, people are sometimes not happy with how things were done in New Zealand, and obviously it affected, especially people in the events industry. Like I was doing Facebook ads for someone that ran an ocean swim event, and I mean, like it put them into such a tough spot because they've got these events that they're running. That's like where their income comes from. Now suddenly they can't do them anymore. But I think, you know, I think overall, considering the situation that Canada's in, where it's kind of like half open, half not open, it's kind of like, I feel like the way that things went in New Zealand were, in the grand scheme of things, kind of okay. But yeah, that's just my view on it. Like, I'm not in the weeds of it. I'm lucky that I can work from home. So I think everyone will have like their own perspective on it.
What would be your single most valuable piece of advice for a business who is needing a freelancer?
Make a plan around what you want. So I honestly think the difference between people who succeed with freelancers or do well with freelancers are the people who like take the time to first of all figure out what is it that I'm actually trying to achieve and what specifically do I need to get done. So that's number one. As soon as you outline those things, you're already in a really good position. Number two, talk to 3 different freelancers, like at least. Like don't just like this is, and I only say this because I'm the kind of person that meets someone, I'm like, oh, you're great. Of course I'll hire you. Let's go. Talk to 3 different freelancers so that you can kind of see the main differences, like in pricing or the kind of quality of work that they've done. So give yourself a few options. And then also just be clear around your expectations and the way that you want to work with them. If you're the type of person that wants to micromanage the freelancer, then that's completely cool. Just be transparent about it, because you will end up having issues with someone who just wants to do their own thing and doesn't want to be managed. But you might also run into a situation where you say, just do what you want, but you're working with someone who's like reasonably junior who needs to be managed. So it's all about like good communication skills, clear expectations, and that will put you in a really good position.
Last question, and it's more about what you do. So what sort of content do you consume? What's your escapism, let's call it? You podcast? Do you listen to a ton of podcasts? Are you a gamer? What do you do?
So that's a good question. I do listen to the occasional podcasts. Probably not that much. Like I have like the old podcasts that I listen to, like business podcasts, but like I don't have like one specific one that I listen to. I watch like a lot of like YouTube content around the no code stuff that I'm working on. But oftentimes because I create my own YouTube content, I just have kind of started to consume less. I don't know if it's just as a result of actually creating content. I'll probably say that when I'm not working, I oftentimes just do other things like watch TV shows and that kind of stuff. So I'm not a huge content consumer anymore. I do have the odd audio book that I listen to, which has been quite good. So when I go for runs, I listen to audiobooks. But other than that, I'll probably say that I'm not as much of a like content consumer as I used to be, or at least not a super deliberate content consumer. If I find something that looks interesting, I'll like go over it. But oftentimes I'm just whatever's there in the moment.
The last question I want to ask is actually, so you said you've got a YouTube channel. What tools do you use to edit your video?
So I use Final Cut Pro. So I actually started this YouTube channel pretty much exactly a year ago. And like, did I need to start a new thing? Probably not. But I like last year, one of the things that I wanted to improve on the most was just being more consistent at things. I kind of felt that I would oftentimes find myself in situations where I'd start things but not see them through. And another thing was that I'd also oftentimes kind of take the easy way out on things. Like if there was like a difficult thing, it was very easy as a self-employed person. It's very easy to be like, I'm not really accountable to anyone, so I can just kind of not do it. So I set because of all of those things and the fact that I wanted to change it, I decided that I wanted to learn a new skill and challenge myself to do something. So I said I would create 2 videos a week for 52 weeks, so 104 videos. So I signed up to this course. I bought a new camera because as soon as I make that financial commitment, I'm stingier than I'm lazy. So as soon as that money is spent, I'm doing it. And so I did a course on basically how to come up with YouTube videos and how to edit them. And I just started to do it. And I managed to do 104 videos in 52 weeks. And since then it's been quite cool. It's been quite fun. It's a lot of great things have come out of it as a result of it. There've been some ups and downs, but to answer your question, Final Cut Pro.
Final Cut Pro, nice, very, very good. Hey Connor, it's been a super cool chat. What we will do is make sure that we put the links to the Unicorn Factory down below. I'll link it to any of the FAQs as well. You spoke about Airtable. I'll whack that in there if anyone wants to learn about that. Any other apps that you think our audience should be checking out?
Yeah, I mean, just the no-code tools in general. So, on my website, I've got a little guide to how I built the Unicorn Factory as a non-developer. So if anyone's ever interested in creating their own version of the Unicorn Factory, maybe not a freelancer marketplace in New Zealand, but something else, then I basically have like a little guide explaining all the individual steps that are involved with it, the tools that you have to learn. And even if you are not planning on building something like the Unicorn Factory, like no-code tools are like opening up a lot of opportunities for people to do some really cool, fun, creative things and businesses, like learn how to build basic websites, learn how to set up databases. And probably the thing that I find most exciting is how to set up workflows and automations within your business. Take some of those processes that you do on a day-to-day basis and just automate it. There's heaps of resources on my website, on my YouTube channel that you should definitely check out. It's worth the time for sure.
Cool. I'll definitely make sure. So what's your YouTube channel name?
I think if you Google my name, Connor Finlayson, you should be able to find it on YouTube. Or I hope at least.
Let's
hope so, disaster
right?
If not.
Optimize some keywords here, if not. Awesome, man. Hey, Connor, this has been really, really cool. I appreciate your time. You're doing a great job. I just had a business idea. You've got Unicorn Factory. We should do a trade factory, or not because there's a lot of people out there who are like home handy people, lawnmowers, and people are trying to find these people, especially now in New Zealand where the grass is growing like at a ridiculous rate. I just saw my grass grow a centimeter just now. There's another option for us right there.
There you go. That's a great example of a site that you could create with those tools.
There you go. Let's do that. Connor, have a great day, man. I really appreciate it. I think it's quite late there in Canada, but thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's really good to chat to a Kiwi again after not talking to Kiwis for a while. So yeah, thanks for having me on, and yeah, all the best with the podcast.
No worries, man. I appreciate it. Have a great day.